Welcome to a new episode of Subcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're tackling a topic that's, well, it's really crucial for any business looking to thrive, especially now.
Ah,
It's the often underestimated power and, maybe more importantly, the cost of your employer brand.
absolutely. It's something that flies into the radar sometimes, but the impact is huge.
Yeah, think of it as your company's reputation, but through the eyes of potential hires and, current employees too. And trust me, it really does hit the bottom line. Maybe harder than you'd initially think.
It really does. It's sort of like your brand reputation with customers, right?
Yeah,
But this time it's all about attracting and keeping the best people.
exactly.
And just like, a bad product review can scare off customers, a poor employer brand can send top candidates running the other way. We've seen some pretty compelling data on this.
For sure. We're going to unpack some frankly surprising figures today and some real-world examples too. They really highlight just how much a negative employer reputation can ding a company's finances and, well, its overall success.
hmm Especially in this job market. It's so competitive out there.
Right. You really need to stand out for the right reasons. So let's dive in. When we talk about employer brand, what are we actually getting at here?
Okay, so let's think about it maybe from a marketing angle.
Mhm.
Your employer brand is basically, it's your organization's market positioning as an employer.
Okay.
In a talent market like today, where good candidates often have multiple offers, you absolutely need to clearly communicate what makes you unique as a place to work, your value proposition.
So showing your true colors, essentially.
Exactly. It's about being authentic, showing your culture, your values, what people can genuinely expect. It attracts the right audience, which in this case is the talent you need.
Makes sense. And just like a poorly targeted marketing campaign can lose you customers, a weak employer brand can lead to some serious financial drains.
Definitely.
We saw some interesting research on this from the Harvard Business Review and ICM Unlimited. They actually put a number on it. What did they find?
Yeah, that was quite insightful. Their key finding was that companies with a, let's say, less than stellar employer brand, they can end up spending at least 10% more on each new hire.
Wow. 10% more.
10% more. And when you think about that adding up across, hundreds or thousands of hires, it really starts to become a big number.
Right. Why do you think that premium exists? Is it just about salary?
Well, partly, yeah. It makes intuitive sense, doesn't it? If candidates aren't that excited about joining your company based on its reputation.
You probably have to offer more money to convince them.
Exactly. Sweeten the deal just to get them in the door.
That HBR study had a pretty striking example of this, didn't they, for a larger company?
They did. What was the kind of figure they were talking about?
Right. So they modeled it for a 10,000 employee company, and they estimated that a poor employer brand could lead to an extra $7.6 million in annual salary costs.
$7.6 million just to compensate for a bad rep.
Just to compensate for that negative perception. That's a massive amount of money. Think what else you could do with that. Absolutely. Innovation, employee development, better benefits. So much potential there. And they even broke it down further, right, to a cost per individual hire.
They did. Their calculations suggested companies might need to cough up an additional $4,723 per hire.
Just because the brand isn't pulling its weight.
Pretty much. Just to overcome that perception problem. It's a significant hidden cost.
But here's the part that really stood out to me. It's not just about the money you have to pay.
No, not at all.
Even if you do offer more, a bad reputation can still be a complete deal breaker.
This really gets to the heart of what motivates people, doesn't it? Beyond just the salary. The study found that almost half of the people they surveyed, nearly 50%,
Half.
said they would actually turn down a job offer from a company with a poor reputation, even if the pay was better.
That's huge. It says so much about the weight people give to where they work.
It really does. Salary isn't always the top driver. So, okay, if half would reject it outright, how much more money would it take to maybe tempt some of those people?
Good question. What did the study find there?
Well, interestingly, even a pretty significant 10% pay bump only convinced about 28% of those initially hesitant candidates to reconsider.
Only 28%, even with a 10% raise.
Right. It really hammers home that people are looking at the bigger picture, the experience, the company's values. It's standing, not just the paycheck.
Which, ties right back into authentic marketing, right?
Yeah.
You can't just market a great workplace if the reality doesn't match up.
Absolutely not. Candidates see through that pretty quickly these days.
And this whole issue, the cost of a poor employer brand, it's not just a U.S. problem, is it? It's global.
Oh, definitely global. Looking at some international estimates, The annual costs are pretty eye-watering elsewhere, too.
Like where?
Well, for example, in Canada, it's estimated around 3.5 million US dollars annually. In the UK, it's closer to $5.9 million.
Okay.
And then you look at Germany, and it jumps up to about 8.2 million US dollars.
Wow, those are serious numbers in any currency. It really makes you stop and think.
About what else that money could be doing.
Exactly. How much more effectively could those millions be invested in actually building a great place to work, a culture that just naturally attracts the best people?
Precisely. Imagine funneling that cash into, say, better training programs, enhanced benefits, creating a genuinely supportive work environment. The ripple effect on morale, on productivity, it would be immense.
We also found a really powerful case study involving Virgin America. It's a perfect example of how a negative candidate experience, which is a big part of your employer brand, can directly hurt your bottom line in ways you might not expect, like customer loyalty.
Oh, yeah, the Virgin America one. That's a classic example because it connects the dots so clearly. They actually surveyed candidates they didn't hire.
Right. And what did they find?
They discovered that a pretty significant chunk, 18%, were already customers of the airline.
Okay, so there's an overlap right there. But it got worse, didn't it? Some of those rejected candidates actually stopped flying with them.
Exactly. That was the kicker. A notable 6% of those rejected candidates who were customers, they switched to competitor airlines, specifically because of their negative experience during the job application process.
Wow. So a direct hit to revenue purely from a bad candidate experience.
Directly. And when they crunched the numbers, what was the financial damage for Virgin America?
What was it?
It worked out to roughly $6.2 million in lost revenue. $6.2 million.
That's incredible.
And what's even more striking, that figure was almost the same as their entire annual recruiting budget.
No way.
Yes. So it's crystal clear. Messing up your employer brand, even just the candidate experience part, can literally cost you as much as you spend trying to attract people in the first place. And it hits your customer base, too.
It's such a strong reminder that employer brand isn't just some siloed HR thing. It's core marketing. It affects the whole business ecosystem, customer sales, everything.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, let's switch gears just a little bit. Let's talk about the quality of the people you manage to hire. How does employer brand factor in there?
Right. This is where a strong brand really pays off strategically. Research suggests that having a positive employer brand can actually increase the quality of your hires by as much as 9%.
9% better quality.
9%. Think about the cumulative impact of bringing in consistently higher caliber talent, innovation, productivity, driving the business forward.
And on the flip side, I suppose, if your brand is weak or negative,
then you're likely missing out on those top performers. They're naturally going to gravitate towards companies with stronger, more positive reputations. Just how it works.
you end up settling.
Pretty much. You often find yourself hiring average, maybe even below average performers simply because the best candidates aren't even applying or they're turning down your offers. It becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy.
And hiring people who aren't top performers, that has its own financial cost, right? We saw an example related to Apple on this point.
Yeah, for a high-performance company like Apple, the estimated cost of just one underperforming employee can be staggering. Around $240,000 per year.
Per employee, per year.
That's the estimate. Think about the drain on resources, the impact on team morale, lost productivity. It adds up fast.
So spinning that positively, if you do proactively invest in building a strong employer brand, one that attracts those high-caliber people, what's the potential upside financially?
Well, by actively cultivating that positive brand, the kind that really resonates with top talent, organizations can definitely see better profitability. The potential savings were estimated around $1.4 million annually.
$1.4 million saved or gained just by attracting the right people through a better brand.
Exactly. It's a really compelling ROI for focusing seriously on your reputation as an employer and refining your whole talent acquisition strategy.
It really does underscore that this isn't just an HR task delegated to a corner. It's a critical business strategy.
Oh, absolutely.
The ripple effects of letting your employer brand slide, they go way beyond the HR department. It can genuinely slow down, maybe even destabilize the whole organization's progress.
Totally agree. As we've seen with all these figures and the Virgin example, a weak employer brand has these really far-reaching consequences. It hits hiring costs, yes, but also customer loyalty, and fundamentally, the quality and output of your entire workforce.
So I guess the key takeaway here seems pretty clear. Ignoring your employer brand, It's not just a minor oversight.
Not at all.
It carries real, significant, and quantifiable financial risks. We're talking higher recruiting spend, losing customers, and ending up with a less effective team. It's a marketing challenge as much as anything else.
Perfectly put, it really requires a shift in mindset. Your employer brand isn't some optional nice to have.
Right.
It's a fundamental investment in your company's future health and success.
Yeah.
Being proactive, building and nurturing that positive reputation. It's just essential to compete for talent today.
And, if you're listening and wondering about your own employer brand, maybe how it stacks up or how you could strengthen it, well, that's something we can help with. For inquiries about understanding your employer brand and how to strengthen it for success, definitely get in touch with Subsign for all your marketing needs.
Because ultimately, having that strong employer reputation, it isn't just about filling jobs today. It's about building a resilient, adaptable, and thriving organization for the long term. It's an investment that pays back in so many ways.